Imagine you're baking a cake. It's a complex process, isn't it? You have different ingredients, each with its own role. The flour provides structure, eggs add moisture, sugar sweetens, and baking powder helps it rise. Similarly, a computer is like a big, complex cake with different components, each playing its own role. First up, there's the motherboard. This is like the baking pan that holds all our cake ingredients. It's the main circuit board of the computer that houses the CPU, memory, and other components. It's the foundation that holds and connects everything together. The CPU, or Central Processing Unit, is the brain of the computer. It's like the oven in our cake analogy. Just as the oven controls the temperature and baking time, the CPU controls all the instructions and calculations that the computer performs. Next, we have the computer memory, also known as RAM or random access memory. Think of this as the countertop space you have when you're baking. The more countertop space, the more ingredients you can work with at once. Similarly, the more RAM a computer has, the more data it can process simultaneously. Now, let's talk about storage. This includes the hard disk drive, HDD, and the solid-state drive, SSD. These are like the pantry and refrigerator where you store your baking ingredients. The HDD is like a pantry. It has a larger capacity, but it takes longer to retrieve items. The SSD, on the other hand, is like a refrigerator. It has less space, but you can access items much faster. Our next component is the graphics card. This is like the icing on the cake. It's not necessary for the cake to exist, but it makes it look so much better. The graphics card is responsible for rendering images, videos, and animations, making your gaming and movie experiences smoother and more realistic. Finally, we have the input and output devices. These include the keyboard, mouse, monitor, and speakers. They're like the tools you use to interact with your cake: the spatula, knife, oven mitts, and your own senses. They allow you to interact with the computer, inputting commands and receiving feedback. In summary, a computer's architecture is a complex system where each part has its own role. The motherboard is the foundation that holds everything together. The CPU is the brain that controls all operations. RAM is the workspace for processing data. The HDD and SSD are storage spaces for data. The graphics card enhances visual output, and the input and output devices allow interaction with the system. Understanding computer architecture can seem daunting, but when you break it down into its components, it's like understanding the recipe for a delicious cake. Each ingredient has its role, and together they create something truly amazing.